Grace kids, we're going to be talking about Balaam and Balak today in Numbers chapter 22 through 24. So if you want to head on over there and read some of that after we get done with this lesson, that would be absolutely wonderful. But we're going to be hearing about Balaam and Balak. Why? Because God commanded Balaam to bless his people, who? The Israelites, okay? And we're going to see how Balak actually mixes into this story as well. But what's been our verses? Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. Trust in the Lord with all thine heart, and lean not into thine own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy paths. So Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. If you haven't memorized that yet, you need to. Those verses are so good to have on hand anytime, anywhere, just to be able to remember we can trust God, but we have to trust him with everything. What's been our question? What does it mean to sin? And to sin is to think, speak, or behave in any way that goes against God and his commands. So to think, speak, or behave in any way that goes against God's commands and God himself. So those are the things that we really have been focusing on for the last few lessons, but what's going on with this story? In this story, the Israelites come near to the edge of the promised land, near the Jordan River in the plains of Moab. By now, all of the previous generations have died off. Just as God stated, they would be 40 years in the wilderness. No one that had complained before they entered, when they were going to enter into the promised land, no one that had complained before would actually enter into the promised land. So all we have is Moses, Joshua, and Caleb. Now Moses isn't going to enter, remember, because he messed up in the last lesson by striking the rock twice instead of speaking to it as God commanded him to do. But Joshua and Caleb were the two spies that said, let's do this. God's already given it to us. Let's take this land. And God said, hey, you're going to be able to go right into the promised land. So here we go. We have Balak. He is the king of Moab. And he sees the Israelites and he is afraid. He's scared. He doesn't know what's going to happen. And so he says, okay, let's send some messengers over to Balaam. Because Balaam, he believed that anybody that Balaam cursed would be cursed. And anybody that Balaam blesses, they would be blessed. And so he wanted Balaam, he wanted Balaam to curse Israel. Balak wanted Balaam to curse Israel. Why? Because he was going to attack them. So he wanted to make sure that they were cursed before he attacked. So he sent messengers over to Balaam, and Balaam agrees. And he goes with the king's officials, but God does not want his people to be cursed. So guess what he does? He sends an angel to go and stop Balaam. And this angel appears in the path before Balaam as he's riding on his donkey. But Balaam doesn't see the angel. Guess who does? The donkey sees the angel. And the donkey stops 3 times. Because he sees this angel. I mean, this donkey thinks he's going to die. And so he stops 3 times. He went off the road. He ran into the wall. He crouched down on the ground. And Balaam didn't understand. So he thinks that the donkey is just being obstinate. He thinks that the donkey's just rebelling against him. So he beats him with the stick. And in that moment, God gave this donkey the ability to speak. What? It's like Chronicles of Narnia happening here. Okay, he gives the donkey the ability to speak, and the donkey says, what have I done to you that made you beat me 3 times? And Balaam says, well, you made me look like a fool. Hold on for a second. If you were Balaam, would you even speak back to the donkey? Wouldn't you be thinking, what is going on here? Am I in a dream? Or would you just have totally passed out, fainted because you were in total disbelief? What is going on here? But Balaam actually speaks back to his donkey. He says, you're making me look like a fool. That's why. And then all of a sudden, God revealed the angel to Balaam. And he's afraid. He said, okay, I was wrong. I didn't understand. If you want me to return home, I will return home. I'll go back. But you know, the angel says, it's okay for you to go. It's just that you're going to say what we tell you to say. So God ends up using this whole predicament in a totally different fashion. He still wants him to go, but only to say what he wants him to say. So Balaam goes before the king, Balak. And he tells the king, he says, okay, I'm going to do this, but I'm only going to say what God wants me to say. So God has blessed the Israelites, so I'm going to bless the Israelites. So he ends up blessing the Israelites 3 times. He does exactly the opposite of what Balak wants him to do. Balaam blesses the Israelites 3 times. And the king was angry. He says, this is not what I want you to do. And he sends him home. He says, go home. I don't want to deal with you any longer. And you know, Balaam gives a prophecy. He gives a special day. He says, one day the Lord will be born to the people of Israel. What's he talking about? He says this, I see him, but not now. I perceive him, but not near. A star will come from Jacob, a scepter will arise from Israel. What happens? He's prophesying of Jesus coming to be born. What? All the way back then. So what's the Christ connection? Well, Christ, 1,400 years later, 1,400 years after God's promise, ends up being born. And guess what? Jesus would bless, kind of like Israel was being blessed at that point, Jesus would bless the whole world for those who chose his deliverance, his rescue, his salvation. Wow. That's so cool. God and his promises over and over again coming true. God is faithful. He's faithful. We can trust in him. Okay, so that is awesome. So what's our questions for today to wrap it up? Let's ask some questions, see where you're at. Why did Balak wanted Balaam to curse Israel? Because he wanted to attack him. He wanted to take him out. He was afraid. So who came to stop Balaam? It was the angel. The angel stood in the way. Why did Balaam hit the donkey? Because the donkey kept stopping. He thought that the donkey was just being rebellious and didn't want to go the way that you're supposed to. So he hit him. Yet what did the donkey see? He saw that angel. How did God use Balaam's sin to bless Israel? Well, Balaam was going in the totally opposite direction of trying to curse God's people, but he ends up using that path to make him keep going to the king and end up blessing Israel 3 times. Awesome. Why? When might we miss what God is doing right around us? See, that's something that's very, very important for us to be able to see. See, sometimes we're so caught up in our own distractions, our own things, our own stuff, that we forget to see that God is working right in front of us. We forget to see that God is showing himself mighty right in front of our faces. If we would just open up our eyes and find true understanding there. See God. When's the last time you've seen God move in a pretty big way? Have you been too distracted to be able to see it? I hope you enjoyed that lesson here today of Balaam and Balak. and I hope you have a wonderful day. What's our activity for today? Well, the activity is to think of your future. Think of what's coming in the future and try to think of the things that you want to be, like where you might live, what you might be doing, how big your family might be. Are you just going to stay the Lone Ranger, or are you going to have a family? What kind of car are you going to drive? Why am I getting you to do this? Well, I want you to put it all on a paper, and I want you to keep that paper. And then 20 years from now, look back at that paper and see how much came true. And you'll probably find that most of it hasn't come true. Or some of it has, but just not to the same degree that you put it. And then that'll remind you that God's promises continue to stay true to the same degree that He's told us. He's faithful. He can make those prophecies. He can make those promises, and they will come fully true. I hope that'll be a reminder for you today. I will talk to you later. We'll have another lesson for you tomorrow. You have a great day.